So screen recording is awesome if your sketch is running fine on your computer and your computer can also handle doing the video recording at the same time. But if you have a really complex sketch, or if you have a sketch that's bigger than your screen can handle, you might want to think about recording in a different way. And so let me close this forest fire simulation. I have a different example here we can take a look at. And this doesn't look super exciting for me to show you. I can show you what the end result is going to look like. I've already done this for us. So this is a video that's being rendered at 4K. So my screen is 1920 by 1080 approximately. But let's say I want to create a video that's super high resolution for projection or for display in a gallery. That would obviously be bigger than I can see on my screen. And maybe it's a really computationally complex process that's running really slow. Maybe it's a couple of frames every few seconds or every minute. Maybe it's really, really complex, like pixel level stuff. In that case, QuickTime or Cap or those other options would not work very well. So this is just like a demo sketch to do this. And I've designed this thinking ahead that I know I want to do screen recording, or I'm sorry, frame recording. So what this is going to do, I've got some options here. The frame rate, the frames per second that I want for my video, 24 is pretty common these days. And then how long do I want this to last? I want it to last 10 seconds. And then I'm creating a variable for how many frames it's going to save. This is not necessary, but it just makes it really easy for me to say, hey, I want 10 seconds of this at 24 frames per second, and then it does it all automatically. Then in my setup, I have this set up for 4K video, like I said, which is way bigger than what my screen can show. So already, screen recording is not going to be a good option. And then I'm just rendering the frames here. This is a very simple example. And in this case, I'm just quitting when it's finished. So that way I can turn this on, I can go make lunch, come back. This took quite a while to render everything. And then I have a really simple frame rendering thing here. Basically, it's just drawing those squares and rotating them over time. And then the real key part is down here. This is where it's saving that frame to file. So I've got a folder. Definitely, this is going to create how many files? This will create 24 times 10 times, 242. So that's actually not so crazy, but it can get to be a lot. If you want this to be a 5-minute video, we're talking thousands of frames. We definitely don't want that in our sketch folder. It's going to be really hard to keep track of. So I'm saving it to a folder, and then I'm creating the file name based on the current frame count, and then this function NF. And these little utility functions, I think, are really kind of the unsung heroes. I'm not going to make a video about NF probably, but it's so helpful. And what NF does, NF stands for number format, and it takes a number, either an integer or a float, and it adds padding or leading zeros. So it'll take a number like 7, and I can specify how many zeros I want to have in front of it, and it'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It'll make it 6 digits total. Sorry, that's not right. 5 zeros. Here we go. 5 zeros, and 7 makes it 6 digits long. So then the number 13 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 digits like that. And the reason we might want to do that is depending on your computer operating system and other factors or other software that you might use later, it might clump together the number 1 with the number 10, and then the number 100, and then 2, 20, 200, 3, 30, because it's going by that first number, which is obviously not what we want if we're trying to create frames of video. Instead, if we had 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, etc. To 0, 9, and then 10, 11, it's going to keep everything in order because all those numbers start with zeros. And so in this case, NF is going to make our frames 6 digits with zeros in front. And then I'm going to save them as PNG. And PNG is going to work really nice for my kind of graphical stuff. And it's not going to have any loss in the compression. And then I just save it to my folder. So once I've run this, in this case, I'm not going to run it now because, well, we can run it and I'll show you. You're not going to see anything. So sorry, you're getting this blank screen right now. It's all happening in the setup. And if you remember, processing only displays stuff to the screen at the end of the setup or at the end of the draw loop. So every time it hits the end of the draw is when it puts stuff on screen. So right now, it's also not taking any energy from my computer to display these frames, which is great because I don't need to see them. I'm just trying to render stuff to screen. The downside is that we can't see what's going on, and we'll talk about that in a sec. But you can see this window is really huge. You know, I wouldn't be able to see all of this on my screen anyway. And it's going to keep going. And in order for me to know what's going on, like I said, you know, we're not seeing anything on screen. I've just included a print line command here that's just telling me where I'm at. And this is really helpful. One thing you could try is to take an existing sketch you have, make it render frames like this, like add this functionality, and think about what other kinds of print line commands maybe you would want to have so you can see kind of like the process as it's happening. So I'm going to stop this because you can see, you know, in, I don't know, 20, 30 seconds or something, it's only rendered 40 frames, but it's doing it into this output folder. And so now I can preview those. And each one of these frames is 1.2 megabytes. So this, you know, 4K video is pretty big. It's going to be hard to see the change because these rotate really slowly. But great. So that's awesome. We've got these frames. What do we do with them? Well, you could open Premiere or something like that and put them in as an image sequence and render it out as a video. And if that's a process you know, awesome. That's going to work really good. But it's slow. You got to save your Premiere file. It's just going to be, I don't know, I think it's kind of a messy step involved. So instead, I want to show you a really amazing, sorry, my terminal is super huge. That's not going to be good. I want to show you a really amazing command line tool for doing this called Ffmpeg. And Ffmpeg is all in the command line, so it runs in the terminal. It's available for any platform, and it's for video. It's really amazing. It can do all kinds of stuff. It can convert a video very quickly from one format to another. You can strip the audio out from a video. You can do video effects. You can do all kinds of stuff. But the really great thing that it can do is convert still frames into video files. And it does it really quick, and it does it really easily. Now, installing Ffmpeg is maybe the hardest part of this whole process. So if you're on a Mac, I highly recommend this tool, Homebrew, and you can install Ffmpeg through this and avoid a lot of kind of headache. So if you go to brew.sh, and all you need to do is copy this command, this whole thing, into your terminal, or I guess it works for Linux too. That's great. I thought it was Mac only. You paste it in, hit return. It's going to install Homebrew, which is basically software for installing other software. And then you can use the command brew install, and then the name of the software you want, in this case, Ffmpeg, and it's going to go ahead and download it. It's going to install any dependencies, any other software required for this to happen, and then install the software itself for you. It's really great. It's really easy. It also means that you can update and install. Now, in this case, okay, so one of the things it may do is this updating Homebrew. Sorry, I should have run this before I started recording. It's going to update itself as well. It's looking for, you know, changes in software, both for itself and the packages that you've installed. We can probably just leave this running in the background right now. Sorry about that. Then we can, it'll try to install Ffmpeg. I already have it installed on my machine, but it's as easy as that. It's really great. For those that are on PC, sorry, you can install Ffmpeg from their website. So if you go to ffmpeg.org, and I'll put these in the description as well, you can download these pre-installed executables. I have not done it this way, so please let me know if this isn't working for you, but this is one way to do this. I definitely recommend, if you're doing it on a Mac or Linux, using Homebrew or a package manager like this. I think it's going to work a lot better. So you can see Homebrew is already installed. That's awesome. I don't need to do that. And then you can just test, or sorry, Ffmpeg is installed. And then you can test to make sure it's working right by just typing Ffmpeg, and you should get something that looks like this, which is just telling you some info about itself. So Ffmpeg has some pretty crazy things that it can do. If you go to the documentation page, you can find all kinds of stuff. If you Google something specific, you're going to find, you know, a lot more too. But this is just some of what Ffmpeg can do. And it can feel really overwhelming, but I've put in this example. So if you're in the code examples, you can find this exporting frames to video. I've put a sample command that I think works really well for this. So let's go ahead. And honestly, I have to look at my notes. I don't do this often enough that I can remember off the top of my head all the details. So I have like a little notes folder on my computer, and I just keep that every time I need it. Basically, I look it up. So the main command is ffmpeg. And then let's talk about some of these. So if you haven't used the command line very much before, these might look a little weird. This like -y is what's called an argument or a parameter that we're feeding into the software. I think y, shoot, I should have looked this up, sorry. I think y means overwrite. Again, I just kind of use what, like a recipe kind of that works good for me. But I definitely know R is the frame rate. So this is 24 frames per second. And that matches my code down here. So I already knew I wanted this to be 24 frames per second. Let's see, let's put this down here. And then I is input. So this is what am I feeding into it? And in this case, oh, before we do this, right now, I'm in my home folder for my user. That's where I go by default when I open my terminal. But in this location, there is, it's not where my sketch is. So what I need to do is I need to navigate to this spot and then be able to render my video. And to do that on a Mac or on a Linux machine, it's CD, that's change directory. I'll put a link as well to a command line cheat sheet that you can check out for kind of remembering these things. But CD, and then if you're on a Mac, a really easy way to do this, you could navigate through the directory structure, but if you click on this little icon up here in the folder, you click and drag it into the terminal, it pastes that whole path for you. It's really great, really easy. Hit return, and now you can see the prompt has changed from this tilde, which means home directory, to the name of our folder. And if I do ls, which lists all the files, you can see, here we go, there's my sketch, there's the output folder with the frames. I've already rendered the video, but we'll be able to see that render in a sec. So cool, now we're in the right spot. Now we can do ffmpeg. Our rate is 24 frames per second. Our input is going to be the folder called output slash, and now we can't give it the whole folder. It won't know what to do with that. But our folder contains, if you remember, these files with leading zeros. So it's padded out to be a certain number of digits, and you can see they're all in order here. And so ffmpeg lets us specify a pattern, and it's going to match that. And it does it with this %06D. And %06D means it's going to be a number with 6 digits and then .png. And now it's going to go through all of those in order. It's going to find them for us. It handles all of this. It's really nice. A couple other parameters. This is really all we would need, but I'm going to add a couple more parameters. The first is my video. So sorry, this is going to be a long command. It's going to run on multiple lines. I want my video codec. A codec is the way a video is encoded, sort of like the format. I want to use H.264. This is a really common one. It works really well for this kind of stuff. So this is the command for that. Profile high, that's going to give me the highest quality video. CRF is 20. I think that has to do with keyframes or something in the video. Yeah, sorry. I don't remember for sure. PIX format, this is important. YUV 420p. This is required if we want to use PNG as our input. But again, like once you get the basics of how this is working, you just copy paste this, change the input files, change the output file, and it's all going to work really good for you. And then the very last argument, the very last thing we put in here is the name of the video file. So mine right now, I already pre-rendered it, so I'm going to call this rotation 2. And then we can do it as MP4, MOV, MKV, does all kinds of stuff like that. So this is my command, hit return. It's going to take a while, and you should get a bunch of stuff like this. If you see some little errors and stuff, I don't think it's going to be a big deal as long as it keeps running. If it quits right away, there's a problem, and it's probably a problem with your command, or it could be, you would need to Google it at that point. But it should run like this, and you can see it's going frame by frame. So now I'm at frame 210. Actually, this is going pretty fast. This is great. For a bigger project, this is again where you would maybe walk away, go have a snack, go to sleep, let it run overnight on your computer or whatever. And it's done. So I didn't get any errors. This is great. And I can see that it rendered out my video. And then you would want to open it and double check that it's running okay. Looks good. So this is only 10 seconds long. This is pretty short. But you could make this a much longer thing like that. So Ffmpeg is an awesome tool. It's very powerful. It can do all kinds of really great stuff. In this case, it's pretty straightforward. It's just taking our frames that we've saved to file and combining them into a video, which is really great. So yeah, if you have any issues installing Ffmpeg or questions about other arguments that you might want to add or suggestions, if you found any really great Ffmpeg settings, put it in a comment. Let me know. That would be really great. It's a really powerful tool. It can be sort of intimidating in a way because it's not the friendly GUI based kind of software we're used to. But once you get used to it, it's really fast. It's a lot easier than like opening Premiere or something like that.